Our first panel is called From Seed to Cup, a B Coffee supply chain case. In 2019, 3 companies created the first all B Corp coffee supply chain, with green coffee from Daterra, imported into the United States by Sustainable Harvest, and roasted, brewed, and served by Equator Coffee. Before we go to the first panel, we will show you a short video about what this project was about. Take a look.
We believe in using business for good. At Equator Coffees, we love partnering with like-minded companies. That's why we're working with Sustainable Harvest and Daterra to bring our customers the best coffee from a fully B Corp supply chain.
The campaign is about education. We want to bring to consumers a transparent, modern, and very equitable supply chain.
B Corp, because it doesn't certify the product or a service, it certifies a business in a role, meaning your governance, your working relationship, your clients as well, your full value chain. It actually proves that you are using your business to improve the whole ecosystem that you belong to.
Supply chain is important because it brings like-minded companies together who take more than just the bottom line.
It's important to reinforce and to say, yes, there is a positive element, there is a positive outcome from becoming a B Corp, and if we help each other out, if we support each other, build better business transaction and better business network, overall it becomes a business environment that is more responsible, and it ensures that the power of business can be turned into a force of good.
The satisfaction of being able to find other B Corps in our own value chain is incredible, because you feel that not only by doing our job we are trying to push a positive impact, push a very good movement, but also we are actually doing it in practice.
I love that video. Super cool, isn't it? Well, now it's time to hear from the companies themselves. Let's start learning about how to make a B Corp coffee supply chain happen. Daterra's Director of Sustainability, Isabela Pascoal Becker, is here with us today. Hi, Isa.
Hi.
Representing Sustainable Harvest, we have their president, Brody. Hey, Leon.
Hi.
And last but definitely not least, we have Ted Stachura, Director of Coffee at Equator Coffees. Hey Ted, thank you for coming.
Good to be here. Hello, everyone.
Well, I would like to thank you again for taking your time to talk to us today. Well, I think we are all super interested in learning more about your business, so I will ask you first to please introduce your company and yourself as well, of course, and if you can tell us a little bit more about how your company decided to become a B Corp. Since I introduced Ted last, I am going to ask him to be the first this time. So, Ted, can you please talk to us about Equator a little bit?
Sure. Right. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Ted Stachura. I'm the Director of Coffee at Equator Coffees. It's a coffee roasting company based in California in the San Francisco Bay Area. The company has been around now for 26 years, since founded in 1995. And we are focused on both wholesale as well as retail sales of roasted coffee. We've been a B Corp now for 10 years, and that has been kind of an important part of kind of looking inward at the company and looking at all the things we do, documenting them, and kind of improving over time. So we're kind of happy to have participated in this full B Corp supply chain project with Sustainable and Daterra about a year and a half ago, and we look forward to kind of talking more about it now.
Thank you. Now, Leon, would you please tell us a little bit more about Sustainable Harvest, which is a company with a great name, by the way?
Thank you. Sustainable Harvest is a family-owned, independent green coffee importer. We've been kicking around the coffee lands for over 2 decades. We were founded at a time where sustainability was, I'd say, fighting words in the coffee industry. There was a belief that specialty coffee was sustainable enough, that farmers were doing just fine. At the time, a lot of relationships were obscure. They weren't transparent. They weren't traceable, and I'm not sure that they were really meaningful. And so, a big part of what our founder and CEO David Griswold brought to bear was this idea that trading relationships between farmers and buyers should be transparent. They should be equitable. They should be dignified. And for the last 20 years, we've been pushing that forward in a way to prove that coffee farmers from around the world can play toe-to-toe with any brands globally, no matter how small the farmer is, no matter how far away the divide or the perceived divide. It's been an incredible experience, serving hundreds of roasters around the world, from luminaries and pioneers like Equator to non-coffee companies like Ben & Jerry's, who certainly buy coffee for their ice creams. We serve over 100,000 farmers around the world in about 18 countries, and our team in so many ways reflects and mirrors the world. In many ways, I'm an anomaly. Our team is made up of about 75% of the team is Black, Indigenous, people of color. Our leadership, reflects the same. Nearly 60% of our leadership is, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Our gender, breakdown in the company is equal. We have, parity. We look to support our own team with living incomes and make sure the divides and the inequality that we see around the world aren't present in our own company. And we've loved this experience of pushing forward and the chance to learn and grow from colleagues and partners like Daterra and Isabel and Ted and his colleagues at Equator. And just such a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much, Leon. Thank you. Now, representing green coffee, Isa, as I was saying, I know that this whole idea of a B Corp coffee chain came from Daterra, and I said that I know that because I just happen to know a couple of people who work at Daterra. So I just want to know how this idea was conceived. Where did it came from?
Okay, thank you, Ju. First of all, I would like to say that it would be much better if we could be all together at the farm as we recorded the movie, but it's happy here as well. The idea, Ju, was like, when we decided to be a B Corp, we didn't decide that just because we wanted to have the certification. We wanted, and we still want, to be an example, to be active on that. So how could we do that? How could we push the company? We want more companies to be a B Corp. And then when you have a cup of coffee, and for those, most of us work with coffee, we are always using the expression from seed to cup. So why not think about from seed to cup with B Corps? So the whole idea was actually, we have to prove that this works. We have to prove that it's good. We have to prove that we can actually integrate the whole supply chain, because this is one of the pillars of B Corp, interdependence. So we just did, like we did when we started being Rainforest Alliance, we checked out the website, we saw the companies that were B Corp, and then we were very happy because we have been already talking to Sustainable Harvest. We never had done business, and we had already been a client of Equator. So we said, let's start talking again, because we have already a yes that we are all a B Corp. And then we went to California. We went very fast to visit Portland and Sustainable Harvest. And we started this conversation, and finally they came to the farm, and we had this cup, perfectly cup.
And Leon, how did you at Sustainable Harvest, how did you guys receive this idea?
With open arms, to say the least. I should first apologize. I'm recovering from a head wound, and I have a mild concussion, so I can tell my memory is a little thrown today. But I didn't answer your question about when we became a B Corp, because I think in some ways the story goes back to those early days. Let me just say that back in 2007. Our founder, Dave Griswold, saw the co-founder of B Lab, the entity behind B Corp, speak in Portland, and he was taken by this notion of creating a fully inclusive business with standards that are shared across the industry. As an entity that had done a lot of business with certified coffees, just like Equator and Daterra, we loved the idea of saying our commitment to equity, our commitment to the natural world, our commitment to people doesn't end at the coffee we buy, but it's how we do business. And so back in 2007, 2008, Sustainable Harvest became one of the first B Corps. And since then, we're the longest serving, earliest B Corp in coffee. And that's because, like Isa said, our principles were fully aligned. The same with our early relationship with Equator. And ever since those days, part of those principles has been about relationship. It's been about this model of collaboration, that we can do more together than we can do alone. And so that's required agility and creativity. And sometimes you're not always sure where ideas take you, but we look to collaborate with B Corps any way we can, whether that's the gear our team wears. This is a sweatshirt that we wear to keep warm traveling from Patagonia, another B Corp. Or about 5 years ago, we did a B Corp collaboration with New Belgium Brewing, and made sure that we were offering a really special product with New Belgium, but it missed that element that Daterra brought to the table. That element of full alignment from a B Corp standpoint. And so when we saw the team from Daterra in California at the LA Coffee Festival, we had been fans and friends of Daterra since I think just days later, Isabela and others were on an airplane right to Portland, and we connected with other roasters and colleagues in the community. And, we called Helen and Ted at Equator, and we said, what do you think? We know that you've bought from Daterra in the past. You have this love affair with this coffee for good reason. It's some of the most gorgeous coffee in the world. Could we do more together? And the next day we all went down to San Francisco, face to face, relationship to relationship, and we built this idea into a reality. And so sometimes we overthink sustainability. Sometimes we overthink ideas, when the simple idea can help us move fast towards something that now, Daterra, thanks to this event, has built this entire community, and we see more and more coffee roasters, but we see more and more other elements of the coffee supply chain and coffee ecosystem coming to the B Corp community. And so it's super exciting. It's not competitive. It's, as we used to say when I was at Root Capital, pathologically collaborative.
That's a great expression. Now, Ted, I'm curious about you being the last link of this B Corp chain. How did you guys receive the idea at Equator?
Right. Well, we were excited to receive Isabela, and we work with Sustainable Harvest on coffees from many different origins. So they're very important partner to us. So when Equator was approached together we were happy to kind of like, let's explore this idea further. B Corp is a relatively new concept. I mean, it's been around for a while now, but when Equator was first certified, we hadn't received, a lot of acknowledgement from the public because people just didn't really know what it was. So we looked toward this project as a way to kind of talk about what B Corp is, about the supply chain and the different actors that are involved. A lot of consumers who drink coffee just look to the roaster as a supplier of this product, but there are so many other people involved in the supply chain. We particularly like to talk about where the coffee comes from. So, we're completely transparent in the coffee that we do offer and want to celebrate the people who produce the coffee. So this was a continuation of what we're already doing and an opportunity to talk about B Corp in a way that we hadn't before. I thought it was pretty successful in the end.
Thank you. Great, thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a special week where you served the coffee in all of your stores, right? How was that? How did the public react to that?
That's right. Well, it was more than a week. We rolled out the coffee on our website, and if everyone saw the video that we had produced at the beginning of this segment, so we presented that as an introduction to the whole concept. We had a landing page on our website, links to not a single coffee from Daterra, but we purchased a few different coffees. So depending on what the customer was interested in, they would have different choices. So we had a variety separation coffee, we had espresso coffee, and so on. And then so the coffee was available to purchase directly by consumers via our website, but then we also offered the coffees in our cafes. So at that time, we had 7 cafes in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the city of San Francisco, Oakland, and Marin County. And all of the Daterra coffees that we were roasting were offered in the cafes for an entire month. So people had an opportunity to taste the coffee brewed as a pour over. They had the opportunity to taste the coffee as a single origin espresso. They had the chance to taste the coffee brewed on the batch brew if they were in a hurry. And it was just a way to kind of really celebrate a single farm in a way that we don't often have the opportunity to do. And of course, at the same time, this was all kind of bound together by the concept of B Corp, and of course our involvement with Sustainable Harvest as well, and kind of their important link in the chain in bringing coffee from origin all the way to our shores here in Oakland, California. And then we bring finally the last step, bringing the coffee into our roastery, roasting the coffee, distributing it to our cafes or direct to consumer, or our other partners, our wholesale customers, and in our cafes, brewing the coffee for the customer, serving it to them, talking about the properties of the coffee, how they taste. And that was, I think for many people, it was just a new way of thinking about coffee in a way that, a lot of people don't, when you're just routinely drinking coffee every morning, and coffee is coffee. But when you stop and you hear about the story behind coffee, it becomes more meaningful to the people who are drinking it.
Yeah, yesterday we were just talking about the challenges of communicating our companies as B Corps, and I think it was the people for Propeller who were mentioning about it's about creating opportunities to talk about this stuff. So I think this project was a really great opportunity and a conversation starter about this kind of efforts. Now, I must ask a little bit of a broader question. I mean, this project was amazing, but what the audience wants to know is, in your opinion, do you think that being a B Corp influences your consumer or your client? Do you think it affects their decision making? In other words, does it help you to sell more or less, or is it something that you can measure yet? I will ask Leon to take the lead on this one, please.
I would say that this is a really fascinating moment for all of us in history. Some of the simple debates about sustainability are coming to a close. I think that if this last year has not shown us anything, it has shown us that there are two major issues of our time: inequality and the climate crisis. And those are the issues facing humanity. And they happen to be the two greatest issues facing coffee. And I think that what we have seen, not just in the United States, not just in Brazil, but around the world, is a clamoring for something different. We want to be part of something different. I've hoped that COVID would present more of that opportunity, but clearly we see that inequality so different than we had hoped it would be. What my neighborhood looks like, what Ted's neighborhood looks like, and what Isabela's community looks like are very different right now. We know that we have not reached the threshold that we wish, but we know that more than ever, consumers are demanding and putting their dollars behind companies that are there and are at the forefront. I have no doubt the data proves it. We can also see that policy is changing in a way that makes the consumer decision almost irrelevant. And here's what I mean. Look to the European Union. Right now, some of the most fascinating legislation of at least my lifetime is being contemplated. We're about to see new standards of human rights and supply chains. We're about to see new standards of carbon disclosure in supply chains. We're about to see new standards for deforestation in supply chains. Those companies that can prove without a doubt that they are not bad actors, but they are regenerative, positive actors, will thrive in the market. Those that aren't will be penalized in public and with disincentives from policy. It is coming. It is on. We are on the cusp of it, and B Corps are best positioned to lead further and take advantage of those early investments that we've all made. And many of us have made those investments at the expense of our own bottom lines. Many of us exist not to make millions, but to make meaning. And we're connecting with consumers that want the same. When I go to a store, if I see a product and I'm not sure if I recognize a sustainability seal or verification or logo, I think, is that company aligned with what and who I am? And when I see that B Corp logo, I know it is. And so, yes, this is an education process. More people, as Ted and Lisa have said, need to understand what B Corp signifies. But we're seeing that change, catch like wildfire. The number of B Corps in coffee have multiplied exponentially. The number of B Corps in general have multiplied exponentially. We're going through, I don't know which recertification this is for us, maybe our fourth or fifth, and it's delayed not just because of COVID, but because the demand is greater than ever before. And to me, that's one of the most exciting signals of my life. It means that the aspirations we've had, have truly caught up to reality. But the best part about B Corp, and we've heard it, from so many of the speakers that have come before us, is that B Corp isn't about reaching a level and resting on your laurels. It's about continuous improvement. For each of us that goes through this recertification process, each time the standards become higher and higher because the challenges adapt to society. And so now there's so much more in B Corp about carbon. B Corp is leading on concepts like net zero. There are about 1,000 companies worldwide that have committed and pledged to reach net zero by 2030. That's thrilling. About half of those are B Corps. B Corps have moved the needle on business in general. It's super exciting to see what a small community of people have done to be scrappy and pushing forward something greater than themselves. And so, yes, absolutely. I see it day in and day out now that more consumers are looking for that signal, more customers are looking, for that connectivity to us. And, we even have more suppliers, more producer partners and farmers that are saying, how do I use these tools? Because that's the best part. These are tools, whether you're certified or not, that can set the standard. They take the guesswork out of this. It can be really hard and complex to dig into sustainability. It is no longer these simple, fluffy ideas. This is deep science. This is deep design. And B Corp helps provide the guide, the roadmap to say, what do I need to do and how do I do it? And that's the best part, because as operators, we get to set a standard and we get to hold ourselves accountable to performance. As the president of Sustainable Harvest, day in and day out, what I look at is, what are the numbers? What are our standards? Are we performing? Are our suppliers performing? Or, if not, we don't get to play in the market. And I'm convinced that B Corp helps us be a better governed, better managed, higher performing business.
Wow, Leon, thank you. That was beautiful. I saw that Isa was nodding along all the time, so I suppose that she may have a couple of things to say herself. So Isa, I'm going to repeat the question. So we started from, do you think that being a B Corp is something that actually enforces sales? Do you think it helps to sell more coffee? Please.
Yes, first, thank you, Leon, for your speech. I could repeat them all. It's perfect. I love the sentence, make millions or make meaning. And I would say that for us, we believed a lot that, just like Liam said, unfortunately, the pandemic has grown the desire of the past generation, new generation, to buy products, to be more than buy products, to be part of movements that are improving the planet. They are not even damaging the planet. So this is one thing that I think it's a good, and it shows that it's worthwhile to be a B Corp if we are considering communication. But I would go a little bit deeper. And, we are the farmer, the producer. So we are really, really far away from the cup, from the guy that is having the cup. So for us, it's a challenge to think, how can we better communicate that we are B Corp? How can we better translate what we do into the end consumer, or even to the roaster and to the importer, so that they can take advantage of that and better sell. So because of that, we are always thinking about how to better do it. And instead of just communicating and putting the logos, we develop projects. And the first project that we developed, and it's pretty new, it's 1 year, is our Trillion project. Trillion because we are committed to plant 3 million trees in the next 10 years. Yes, we committed to that. We are announcing that, so we are going to do it. But we cannot do it alone. And based on the B Corp guidelines, we have to do it together. It's better to do it together. So we already started the project with Morinaga, a Japanese company. We have 25 hectares in the farm where it's going to be a forest that they helped us to build. And also a company from Germany, The Barn, a roaster company, also designed with us a project. So for every roasted coffee that they're going to be selling, they are going to plant a tree in Brazil. So these are two examples, and I hope to be able to have 10, 20 examples of this kind of partnership from the farm with the importer, with our direct clients, so that our direct clients can reach their clients as well. So we believe that this is one kind of good communication. Another thing that is really good is that we just finished our carbon balance. And for every bag of coffee that Daterra produces, we have a 40-kilo credit, CO2 equivalent credit. That means that we are going to use this credit to help neutralize the whole coffee chain up to the cup. We know that shipping, logistic, and roasting emits a lot of carbon to the atmosphere. So we hope that Daterra can. Now we have 40 kilos of credit, but we hope to keep on improving our management production so that we can increase this credit in order to be able to spread this along the chain. So we want to neutralize from seed to cup. And not only that, but one of our challenges is packaging. We still use some plastic in our packaging, and we've been researching a lot to replace it. And while we cannot replace that, we try to find a better way to dispose it. And if we cannot dispose it correctly or the way it should, we partner with another B Corp from Brazil called iRecycle that is compensating all the 100% of the packaging that we export. We have been doing a reverse logistic in Brazil, and waste companies are being paid in order that compensate this packaging. So these are how Daterra communicates. And we believe this with material examples, people will understand that it's not greenwashing, that we are genuine in what we are doing. It's not easy. It must have planning, and you have to deep dive into each challenge and each solution. But it's very good because we are always partnering with someone. So the whole chain is being able to communicate it better.
Awesome. Thank you, Isa. Now, Ted, you, from all of the participants today, you are the link closest to the final consumer. So I'm curious to know, does your client, does your consumer value this, the B Corp? Does it help you? Is it something that you can measure already?
Yes, I mean, I think the consumer, especially here where we're located in Northern California, the San Francisco Bay Area, it's a very progressive community. So we feel like there is fairly high awareness of what B Corp is now amongst our customer base. We've been putting the logo on our package and website, and what we hope is that when people see that logo, the B Corp symbol, if they don't know what it is, they will do a little research and find out and say, oh, can I learn a little bit more about it? We are seeing now that there is significantly more awareness about the certification than there was when we first became certified a decade ago. At that time, we needed to explain a lot what B Corp is. Now, less so. There are certainly many people who still are not aware of what the certification is all about, but many more people are. We're encountering people know what it is. And that is to a credit to the exponential growth that Liam was referring to. And people begin to see the B Corp logo on a number of different brands, a number of different categories. So it's not just your bag of coffee, it's not just your Patagonia outerwear. It's many different companies from local ones to more national and international brands. And the consumer gets a pretty good idea about the types of companies that are getting this certification. And if they do a little bit of homework on their own, it's easy to find more information about, the tenets of B Corp. And does it help sales? I think so, sure, a little bit. But that's really not the reason why Equator became a B Corp. And I would guess, the same holds true for sustainable and for Daterra. It's not, we don't expect, by getting this certification, we expect to sell a certain volume of coffee more than before. Instead, the certification is more for ourselves as a company to look at everything that we do and say, how can we do it better? How can we document the things that we're doing? That was early on in our B Corp journey. There were aspects of running our business where we're like, oh, well, we're doing so many of these things already, but we needed to document them in new ways. We needed to kind of think about them internally and kind of formalize plans in order to kind of execute different approaches to be able to kind of structure our company in a way that kind of proves, in this case, to the third party B Corp certification scheme that we are in fact doing those things. Because it is very easy for a company to say, it's the greenwashing that Isabela was referring to, to say, well, we're doing the same things that Equator is doing, but without that certification, it's just lip service. And I think there is an understanding now that you have a third party kind of looking at your business and saying, these are the areas that you're doing really well. These are the areas that you need to document further. And they give you a score, and that score is public, and anyone can look your company up and see how you're doing. And for Equator, the goal is to improve over time. So our score will improve with each passing assessment. And it's just a great way for the company to look internally and say, like, how can we do better? How can we document our systems? How can we provide benefits to our employees that will make their lives better and kind of live up to the standards held up?
Thank you, Ted. Awesome. Was so inspiring to hear from you guys. This conversation is really nice, and I don't know about you, but for me, time is flying. I wish we could stay here a little longer.
By B Corp and be.
Yeah. Okay, I think we had a little bit of a lag. We are receiving so many questions from the audience. Unfortunately, we are not going to have time now to answer all of them, but don't forget that our panelists will be back later to answer the questions from the audience. For the time being, we selected one question that I would like you guys to answer, please. So this one is from Eduardo Godoy. He said, to Lian and to the others, thank you so much for talking about diversity and inclusion. How can other companies achieve similar levels of inclusion? And please tell us, has it changed the life of people involved in the business around you? So, Lian, you were asked directly. Could you please begin this one?
This is one that I love for B Corp because my favorite things in the world start to align. This is probably a surprise to some people who know me in coffee, but I love coffee. I love social and environmental justice, but I also love Star Wars. and here's the tie-in. B Corp uses a term called Jedi. And so that's the Star Wars tie-in. I love it. And it says the conversation isn't just about equity, inclusion, and diversity. The J at the beginning really matters. Justice. And so for me, B Corp has been a really powerful community. There's a group called the Beehive, where daily I get updates from the most impressive leading companies around the world. And they're always sharing ideas. We're always asking questions. They're always providing resources. And so I get to see, like, how is somebody thinking about dealing with benefits more progressively than our benefit provider? I'm able to think about how are they thinking about transportation. I'm able to think about how are they rescoping the boundaries of greenhouse gases in the supply chain. How are they thinking about living wage versus living income? And so those things are really powerful. And sometimes, if you only listen to our benefits provider at Sustainable Harvest, they say, "Oh, you are better than everybody else that provides benefits," and that's an easy thing to go to your head. Like, "Oh, that's enough. We're doing better than the norm." And then you engage in the B Corp community, and the B Corp community says, "Oh, we're doing all of these exciting things that you might not hear about elsewhere, that we will at some point." The B Corp community tends to be a few years ahead of the mainstream. And so for me, that's a great place to learn and share and sync up to make sure that we are growing and continuously improving, as Isabel and Ted said, because that's what B Corp is about. It's about that continuous improvement. And so I suspect, Eduardo, the question is actually not best asked of me. It's best asked of our team. It's best asked of the producer partners we work with, like Daterra, on a daily basis. Is the way we do business, is the way we show up, creating equity, creating justice, and helping us avert climate catastrophe. And each day I work hard to get that answer to be yes. But I know that we have a long way to go, and that's why I'm proud to be in this community, locking arms with companies where we can keep learning, keep growing. And when we find, sometimes this overwhelming darkness of the world around us, we see the light, that people like Ted and Isabela and others bring, that help you keep going, that make you stronger and make you better. And so I'd say, Eduardo, I hope so, and come to this community so you can check for yourself.
Great, thank you. Isa, would you like to talk a little bit about how to increase diversity as a coffee producer, as a farm? Isa, you're on mute?
No. Thank you. Diversity in the coffee business in Brazil, it's a very big challenge. We have this coffee production since past centuries, and it's been a very good opportunity to try to change this culture, in fact. Mostly are men, and because most farms are in the rural area of Brazil, the mindset is very different from the city. So when we have the certifications asking us how we improve the diversity, it's different. The tools you have to use are different than the ones that you would be using if you were in a regular office in the city. On the other hand, we see that people from producers and farms, they are so much willing to change, and they are very they desire to change the image of working in the rural area as well. We believe that we can transform that. We believe that we already had some women driving tractors and trucks. And this, I guess, is something that is very funny nowadays, but we hope that in the future it's going to be normal. So we've been trying to find and chase new opportunities to create diversity in a culture that is so old and traditional.
Thank you, Isa. Now, Ted, could you please answer to the same question from Eduardo?
Sure. You know, I think it's important to note that Equator Coffees was founded by two women. You know, and it's in an industry that has historically been dominated by men. So that was unique, you know, especially in 1995 when Helen Russell and Brooke McDonald founded the company. It was unique. You know, we Equator to this day, you know, it's an LGBTQ certified company. So this inclusion kind of comes from the top down. There's a desire to involve, you know, people of all different communities, you know, marginalized communities to become involved in the business, and you know, whether that's working in our cafes or working in one of the other departments of the company. We want, you know, women to be involved. We want people of color to be involved. We want to have as much diversity on our team as possible, because we believe that diversity makes us stronger as a company, and we'll be able to connect more with the people in our wider community. And we love to be able to do that through coffee. So it is something that you need to actively foster. You need to recruit in communities that may not be attracted to your company just naturally. So that is a continual process for us. It's like, how could we attract more diversity to the company to make people feel like Equator is someplace that people want to come and work and want to contribute and want to kind of apply more diversity to the organization, so we can be stronger together.
That's great. Thank you guys again so much for participating, for being with us today.